Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. Continuing our wonderful journey into the Depthcember spectacular that I like to run on my channel, we are playing some Avatar Typal. Yep, this is a deck that is built around our Avatar card types to an extent. And obviously, everyone's favourite Avatar is Marit Lage, 2020 Black Avatar creature. So the only way we're making Marit Lage in this particular deck is using Dark Depths and the Vampire Hexmage. But we have some other avatars here. So we have good old-fashioned Hogaak, a big busted creature from the first Modern Horizons set, I think. We also have Overlord of the Balemurk. So this is a 2-mana thing that mills us a bit and then returns a non-avatar creature. So we have a little bit of a mix of creature types, so this can be finding some other stuff. And this is just going to be a nice big creature that we can also reanimate as well, or it gives us some fuel for the reanimation. We've got ourselves Death Shadow, which is a nice little avatar here. So the reason we're playing all these creature types is because we're also running Steely Resolve to protect them. So no more Swords to Plowshares on our beloved 2020. And it also just does some extra duty on protecting these creatures. But like I said, we have other creatures. So we have the Stitcher's Supplier here, which can mill us towards getting Hogaak up and running. We have Orcish Bowmasters, which on its own gives us the bodies to cast the Hogaak. We have Vampire Hexmage, as we've already mentioned. And we have Satyr Wayfinder, which can mill us a bit and try and find that Dark Depths to help us combo off. We packaged this with some Assassin's Trophies and Thoughtseizes as some disruption, and that's pretty much it. Another thing to point out, I suppose, is the Black Gate. So this is a land that pays 3 life to make, if we want it untapped, and this gives us the ability to make our creature unblockable. So making an unblockable 2020 is a pretty good thing to do, but sometimes just, you know, unblockable Balemurks or whatever is pretty tasty as well. We've got 1 forest in the deck, which we're probably going to draw lots and not be able to cast our black spells, but I think we do really want that for the post-sideboard games. We've got 4 Overgrown Tomb and a couple of Bayous, so we are indexing quite heavily into losing life for our Death Shadow. That way we don't have that many ways of losing life outside of the Thoughtseize, the Mana Base, and the Reanimates. I did have a Street Wraith in a previous build, but I've taken that out. I think I just wanted the Satyr Wayfinder, so we're more likely to get these Dark Depths up and running. This is obviously a first outing for this particular build. I'm curious to see how it pans out. Sideboard wise, well, I think you can work out what we're doing here. This is Graveyard Hate that we can mill over with our Overlord, our Satyr Wayfinder, and our Stitcher's Supplier, so we can just mill over our Graveyard Hate. That's something I would very much like to have access to. This also can't be Thoughtseized out of your hand. I quite like this spell when Grief was everywhere. We've got ourselves some Duresses if we need to poke a hole in our opponent's bits and pieces. We're not playing Vexing Bauble because we are running Hogaak, which gets countered by Vexing Bauble. We've got some Abrupt Decays, we need to blow up some Blood Moons or other sketchy permanents, and then we've got some Collector Ouphes for all the sort of Karn Forge decks and Storm decks and all that sort of jazz. Now, maybe this should be a null rod, but we are a creature deck, and I want more creatures that we can pull back with our Overlord here, as well as having a creature that can tap to convoke the Hogaak. So there's some interesting synergies here. This is one I was sort of fiddling around with last Depthcember, but never really got a chance to play on the channel because it wasn't quite in a place I liked. And Overlord kind of filled a gap that I had in the deck that now makes me feel quite happy about how this is working out. Alright, please remember to like and subscribe. If you'd like to see my videos early, for just £1 a month, you can become a YouTube member, support my channel, and watch my videos early. So why not do that if you're in a position to do so? Alright, let's lock and load and get some sweet Avatar Typal action going. Alright, our opener has a pretty nice curve and some interaction, so I think we're going to keep this one. Our opponent plays quite a lot of goblins. Doesn't necessarily mean that's what they're playing today, but generally speaking, I expect goblins out of them more often than not. Although Polluted Delta suggests otherwise right now. A Dark Ritual. Is this Doomsday? It is a Doomsday. Well, that's going to suck for us, isn't it? So we basically need to draw a Thoughtseize and hope that gets us the way we need to go. I don't believe that our Assassin's Trophy is going to make the difference here. We might be able to destroy one of their lands, but they should be able to win on their next turn. Let's have a look at their exile cards here. Okay, so it's a Personal Tutor Turbo Doomsday build. Alright. How many Force of Wills are there? Oh, okay, they've got a Petal. They might be winning turn 1 here. Okay, they're just going to win turn 1. Sure. So they're going to Brainstorm here. That's going to get them... probably Lion's Eye Diamond. Yep. Okay, and then they have a Cycler, so they cycle and then they crack the LED. I don't think we need to watch this. Alright, so I'll probably just turn 1 us. But that wasn't very goblin-y, was it? So I guess we want some Duresses here. That's going to help a bunch. The Collector Ouphe can do some stuff. Is it enough that I actually want it? Uncertain. Yeah, I don't think we want that. We didn't see the frogs and stuff, so I don't want the decays in. I think we just want the 4 Duresses. And it's probably a case of... I don't think we actually need Steely Resolves here. Our opponent's not going to be interacting with us very much. And we'll take out one of the Assassin's Trophy. We might be able to like snag a land at some point. But this is going to be a very difficult matchup for us. Alright, we have a Thoughtseize. And an Orcish Bowmasters. That's about as good as it could have gone for us. We are playing an Urborg, which does help our opponent out in some ways. Because it means they won't be able to get tripped up on having islands. Because they're basically a blue combo that splashes for a black spell. Alright, they have a Dark Ritual, an Ideas Unbound, and a Ponder. I guess we take the Ponder here. That's the obvious one, I think. I wonder if they fire off the Street Race straight away or not. There's a Scalding Tarn. If they've drawn the Doomsday, that'd be very unfortunate for us. Oh, no. Oh, they're duressing us. Swing and a miss there, opponent. But our hand is pretty solid. So now we have perfect information on our opponent's hand. We can play this Sorcery Speed Bowmasters. So they're going to cycle the Street Wraith in response, but this shuts off any Ponders and stuff. And they showed us they were the build that tends not to have any sort of Bowmaster type action. They're not the Tempo Doomsday, they're full on turbo. Misty Rainforest, and I pass them over. Our Orc army is... It must be midnight in Orc Army Town. I'll pay 3 life in case our opponent has any sort of daze action here. I will use this to force through additional damage. We'll leave up the green source because this is green or a black source. It makes our opponent think about stuff. Let's ping them down. This gives us an additional point of damage on our Orcish Bowmasters, and we do need to have some good pressure going. And now we have that. So they can't cast Ideas Unbound just to try and cycle for something because they will lose the game. Unless they can somehow cast it and immediately win this turn. Which is possible, but they probably just need to Dark Ritual into Doomsday now. Although if they Doomsday, they go to 6 life, and if they cast Ideas Unbound, they draw 3, we ping them for 6. I think we've got them in the squeeze here. But they can just turn 1 us for game 3, yeah. Alright, they've cracked a fetch. They got something brewing over there. A Dark Ritual. A Doomsday. Okay. Is there some sort of expert line to get through what we have here? They could do like a slower pile, so they could put... no, they don't have green for anything like a Veil of Summer they could use. I'm not sure what the line is. But our opponent is a skilled magician, so if there is a line, I expect them to find it. Even though I don't associate them with playing Doomsday as a deck. Okay, that was quite a quick pile. So I can draw 3 cards, but they will die unless they have a way of... Doesn't look like there's any green mana in there. Subtlety, that's one you don't see very often in here. Right, they're going for the Ideas Unbound. Do they have a way of just winning in response here? No. Okay, cool. I'll take it. I guess we try again. Our opponent being on the play is huge here. We have a lot of hand disruption. So we should be able to mulligan to a piece of hand disruption. But if they're on the play, they can just go on turn 1, or they can brainstorm and hide some cards, or they can Thoughtseize us first and take our hand disruption. So there's a million different ways that this is unlikely to work out for us. But there's still a chance. We have some hand disruption. That is part of our plan, so I guess we keep that. We also have the Wayfinder, which can then give us something big to reanimate and clock our opponent with. Aside from being a skilled magician, our opponent is also a lovely human being, which is what you love to see. Okay, a Ponder. So they will hide the best card on top unless they shuffle. So we're hoping for a shuffle here so we can get a clean Thoughtseize to disrupt our opponent with. In case our opponent does have some sort of sideboard pivot, we do want to Thoughtseize rather than Duress in case they're on like a Psychic Frog plan. They did not shuffle, okay. I will get the Overgrown Tomb and I'll pay some life here, just in case. I don't think our opponent's going to win this game by affecting our life total. Force of Will. That fills me with some amount of dread. Please don't go off this turn. I don't know why they would Force of Will to protect their hand unless it was the ability to go off. Maybe they have a Doomsday but don't have the Dark Ritual, and they're just protecting the Doomsday. That would make sense if we can get a clean swipe our opponent's hand with these double Duresses. Alright, all of a sudden, I'm feeling happy about things. So let's play this land out first. Let's get Duress cooking. A Brainstorm. Yep, this is not ideal for us. We don't have a Surveil land. That's one thing that maybe we could have. But we're not really a deck that wants lands to come in tapped. Although Surveil lands are a thing that we want because we want stuff in our graveyard. So, tricky. Edge of Autumn, Thoughtseize, Thassa's Oracle. I guess we take the cantrip here. And then... I guess we're going to lose this Duress either way. So we may as well take the Thoughtseize. We've got 2 oracles in hand. Next turn we start progressing our own game plan. Maybe we can Satyr Wayfinder into Overlord of the Balemurk. That would be real sweet for us. A Ponder was the card they hid. Okay. That is a good sign for us. This also leaves our opponent in a weird position because I think they only have 2 Thassa's Oracle in their deck. So if we end up in a situation where they cast a Doomsday and we can then fire a couple of Thoughtseize as our opponent, then they won't be able to win. They did not shuffle off that Ponder. Intriguing. Let's Satyr Wayfinder here. We played our land out first in case they had a Daze. I think we will get an Overgrown Tomb. How much does Overlord of the Balemurk cost? 5. Sure, I'll get an Overgrown Tomb here. Let's reanimate this Stitcher's Supplier. If it finds us a Hogaak, that's a lot more damage we can put on our opponent. We did not find the Hogaak, unfortunately. But, you know, we still got 2 damage instead of 1. They can just play a Thassa's Oracle, but that does leave them a little bit cold to a Thoughtseize. We only have 1 left in the deck, and our opponent knows that because they can see 3 over there. So they might just play a Thassa's Oracle and use that as a way of getting around whatever we're doing. Alright, it's a Doomsday, so they're going down to 8 life. We're going to need something here. We put up a good fight. If we'd have found a Hogaak here, then we would have had lethal damage and they couldn't do a pass a turn line. Or if our Satyr Wayfinder milled over an Overlord, that gives us a big chunk of damage. So we'll be able to hit them for 6, so they wouldn't be able to use any Street Wraiths in their pile. They're putting an Edge of Autumn in. We can see that because it's highlighted in their graveyard. Right, they've unselected their Edge of Autumn. They are passing the turn, but I don't think we get to punish that, unfortunately. A Bowmaster would. Overlord of the Balemurk. Can that do anything for us here? Maybe. I don't... I guess we could find a Bowmasters off of this. That's pretty decent. We know our opponent's hand can't interact with this because it's just 2 oracles. So if we can find the Bowmasters here, then maybe that's enough. We put our opponent to 6. They can still draw their deck, though, can't they? Because we put them to 6, then we put them to 5. And they only need to draw 4 cards. I guess we take the Bowmasters here. Attack our opponent for 2. Get the Bowmasters down. This can ping. We're just slightly too short, I think, here. Let's cast this. We can delve. I think we're going to be maybe 1 point of damage too slow. Because they only need to draw 2 cards here. Okay, they can draw 3. Unfortunately, we only put our opponent to 2 here. They're just going to play a blue source and play one of these oracles, I guess. And then maybe they have a reanimate on top if this doesn't work. We made a pretty close game of that one, which surprised me. I thought we were going to get absolutely bodied, but we did some good stuff. And like I said, if our Wayfinder hit something big, we could reanimate it. If our Stitcher's Supplier hit the Hogaak, then we could have Hogaaked our way and our opponent couldn't have done a pass the turn line. Alright, let's go to round 2. I think we gave a good account of ourselves, and even in a tricky matchup. And we also showed that the engine in the deck works kind of well. I did mention that the Forest would come back to bite us, but actually the whole hand is no good, so it hasn't actually been the thing that's coming back to bite us. Well, you know me. If I get the option, I'm certainly going to take ourselves into a Dark Depths world. Hogaak. That's not really what we want here. I'll play out this Bloodstained Mire, I think. Keep our opponent guessing. And then next turn, we can play the Dark Depths. Sorry, the Hexmage, if we want to. I'm suspecting Nardu from our opponent. Blighted Agent. Alright, we're on that Infect Life, are we? So our life total doesn't matter, so we can enjoy the fruits of our labours here. Let's crack this. Let's go and get an Overgrown Tomb, pay some life. And I'll play this, I'll pay some life as well. I'll play a little Hexmage. Now, we can't block the Blighted Agent. And we need to get round twice more for this to be enough. Well, they've got Daze. Sure. That might mean our opponent has less mana to try and kill us, but they can kill us off of 1 mana or even 0 mana if they have enough Invigorates. This is going to be a matchup where the Abrupt Decay seem quite handy. Now, Legacy's Quick Reflex is still going to do work against us, but we can play around that because it does cost a mana. Alright, just going to take 1 Infect this turn. Do I think our opponent has a second Daze? Can I play around it given the speed of our opponent's deck, especially if they're about to Sylvan Library and draw 3 additional cards? I don't think we can. So we just have to jam into the board our opponent's presented over there. Can I have this? Because Depths doesn't tap for any mana, there's no point playing out first. Also, we don't want our opponent to know that this is going to be an A to RB here. Another Daze. I think that's probably going to be enough to win the game here off of this Sylvan Library, because they can happily just draw 2 additional cards. Alright, Brainstorm. Are we going to die? Are they going to Invigorate and do some Berserk action? No, we're just getting 1 poison counter. We don't have anything going on though, which is not ideal. Okay, so now having a Surveil land would be good. But we can't even cast Hogaak for 7 mana because you can't spend mana to cast it. So going to be a tricky one. It's a little bit brave playing Infect in the world that we live in right now with all these Vexing Baubles, which stop your main pump spell of Invigorate from working. Okay, are we dead this turn? Could be. Who knows? They only kept 1 card off the library, so they're going to shuffle the other one away. There's an Invigorate. Need 1 more point here. No, 2 more points. Berserk. That's many points. Alright, that was not ideal. But we have access to Abrupt Decays and potentially Duresses. I'm not really into the Duresses that much. Removal's good. I don't think we need to worry about protecting our creatures here, so we can take out these Steely Resolves, and that gets us 3 of these Decays straight away. The Orcish Bowmasters kills a decent chunk of their creatures. The Death Shadow, we can lower and lower total, that's fine, but maybe this is a later game thing, and I would rather have just an Abrupt Decay. Do we want any Duresses? Because they can take out all of their pump spells, which is certainly handy. Reanimate is good here. Maybe we'll take out 1 Hogaak for a Duress. I still like the trophies. If we can just kill their creatures, that works for us. I'm going to take out another Shadow, just to get another Duress in there. So it puts us on a slightly more defensive footing. I don't think we can keep this one, so we're going to have to mulligan. Okay, we can keep this. What are we putting back here? It's probably the Urborg. It does enable some stuff, but we already have black available, so we don't need to worry about that. We do need to lower our life total. And our opponent is not going to help us on that front, which is very rude. So we go and get our Overgrown Tomb. This way we get to Thoughtseize before our opponent has the chance to daze it, or to have a Brainstorm to hide their cards. In comes a Thoughtseize. Goodbye to their best card. Or they could force a will this. Our opponent's thinking long and hard about this, or they've had to step away and do something else. Embiggen and Glistener Elf. We will take the Glistener Elf. They are showing us a... Why are all the lands messed up? Look at that. That's not right. Okay. It's struggling to load here. Intriguing. They do have a Yawgmoth Nexus here. I wonder if that wasteland is going to load when they play it. Oh dear. Magic Online, what's happened? Right, we've lost our green source. Unfortunate. A Dark Depths. Well, we don't get to cast our creature because it will be a -2/-2. Which is not the size I like my creatures to be at, if I'm honest with you. Misty Rainforest. Interesting they didn't play the Yawgmoth Nexus out. This suggests they might have something like a Brainstorm. So they can hide in response to hand disruption. Right, we've got a Dark Depths. It's not really a card we want to play out, but we may as well get a land drop out of the way. And Yawgmoth Nexus. Okay, deck. Give us a land. Not a land, but I don't hate that one. That does get us close to a place where we get to kill our opponent. So we're probably going to take a jab from the Yawgmoth Nexus. They can embiggen it, which is plus a whole bunch. And if they've got an Invigorate, then they just get to go over the top and kill us with it. But just taking one. Just a friendly one. Oh, come on, deck. We need a land. Oh dear, oh dear. Now, I regret putting that land back at the start now. If we'd have had that Urborg, we'd have been fine here. But obviously, we didn't know that was happening. They played a land that we didn't know about. That's interesting. Especially since they're not even using it for blue. Could have just gone and foothills. So now they're going to get 2 points of damage in with their little friend. So Embiggen is +1 for each type. So this is Artifact, Land, Creature, Phyrexian, Blinkmoth. So it's +5/+5. So they hit us for 2 this turn. That takes us up to 3. So next turn they kill us with the Embiggen. Alright. We need you to be good for us, deck. It was not great for us, was it? Let's play the one card that we can actually play. What do we find? All the lands that we haven't been able to draw. Yep, I understand, deck. Sometimes you don't want to be my friend. So our opponent has the win. They should go for it when we're tapped out like this. Especially when they've got a second Yawgmoth Nexus as well. Biggin is an instant or a sorcery? It's an instant, sure. Not that really matters here. I'm going to go for the win. There it is. Yep. I think we're actually fine in that game if we draw the land. Maybe we should have put away one of the shadows and kept the other land, just in case we got wastelanded. You don't normally see very many wastelands. It's sometimes a singleton that they crop rotation for. So yeah, bit awkward on that one, I'm afraid. But let's go to round 3. Oh, this hand doesn't really pan out. A couple of Hogaaks and the Death Shadow didn't really do anything, so let's mulligan this one. Alright, this looks a lot better to me. Am I going to keep the land? So this way we have a Hogaak we can cast from hand. Handy, if you like. What flavour of Once Upon a Time that we're looking at? Balustrade Spy. Oh no. Well, well, well. Looks like we're going to have a spot of bother here. This is a pretty horrible matchup. Nobody's really playing proper Magic right now. Everyone's just jamming combo decks. Would like to draw a Thoughtseize if we get a turn. Okay, the lab is tapped. That's good for us. That means we get a turn. We also don't have to care about our life total in this matchup, so... And we don't have to care about getting wastelanded, so we can Overgrown Tomb. We can Stitcher's Supplier. Alrighty. Next turn we can Satyr Wayfinder and Hogaak. But we won't get another turn because our opponent's just going to Balustrade Spy us. We get to see their build in case there's anything fun going on over there. I suspect there isn't. The Once Upon a Time is a little unusual because obviously it only hits creatures, but they have mana that are creatures as well. Okay, let's just have a look what they got. Yeah, this looks like the sort of faulted form build that I've been seeing a lot lately. Alright, yeah. Well, well, well. If you're unfamiliar with how this deck works, they bring these back. They sacrifice them to the Dread Return to bring back a Thassa's Oracle, which is somewhere here. Okay, the Thassa's Oracle is in their hand. So what they have to do here is Cabal Therapy themselves to put the Thassa's Oracle back into their graveyard, and then they reanimate it. Okay, we don't have many good options here, but I will take these Duresses, I will take these Coffin Purges, I will take these Collector Ouphes. I guess we're not going to have enough time to necessarily set up Death Shadow stuff. We're not going to need Steely Resolve, so they can go. Is the Hexmage where I want to be? We can at least get rid of one Hogaak, maybe two. The Stitcher Supplier and the Satyr Wayfinders can find us the Coffin Purges. That's kind of a little inbuilt bit of tech we have there. We just shave some copies of stuff. The aim of the game is to not lose, rather than win the game, which is a horrible way to play Magic the Gathering. But this is a very polarizing matchup. So we have a piece of Graveyard Hate. Is that good enough? I guess it's going to have to be. We don't really have better options. It's unlikely that Coffin Purge is going to be enough. Coffin Purge is good against the sort of decks that have like one thing they're doing, but our opponent will have multiple options because they have things like Memory's Journey and Jack-o'-lanterns, so they can shuffle stuff in and dodge the Coffin Purge. But maybe we can Coffin Purge, so they have to shuffle it in, and then we can blow up their land so they don't get access to the mana they need. That's probably going to be our strategy. Alright, our opponent is going for a turn 1 kill. Yep, the second turn 1 combo deck we've faced today. Nothing is happening. So they're just playing their guy out and going to turn 2. Well, let's hope that we can best what they have going. They got 5 cards in hand, and that's so many cards. I would have liked to have drawn another land so we get at least Coffin Purge twice. They're just beating us down. I expect they get 2 damage in and then go for it. Alright, they're playing the Laboratory and they're paying some life or not? They're not. That suggests to me they might not be going this turn. Oh, they are going this turn. Okay, so our strategy here. Let's see what they have. So, it's the Floodmore, Jack-o'-lantern. They have 1 Jack-o'-lantern. How many Dark Dread Returns do they have? Let's pop this out and make it bigger so it's easier to understand what I'm looking at. Okay, so where's the Dread Return? Am I being silly here? Is there no Dread Return? Where is the Thassa's Oracle? Okay, so there's the Dread Return. So we found the Dread Return. Okay, blue cards are easy to find. They're a Force of Will, and there is the Oracle. Okay, so they do have both of the things. Okay, so I think we let these hit, and then they'll start doing some Cabal Therapy stuff, and then we will Coffin Purge. Because we only get to remove 1 card, I think we have to take out the Thassa's Oracle here. Targeting us. So they get to return their Poxwalkers here. Do I think they're going to name Coffin Purge? What are the odds our opponent names Coffin Purge? Very low, but it doesn't really matter if we play it now or later. So let's hit this. No, I don't think they're going to name the Coffin Purge. So if we let this resolve, what happens then is they name something else like Fairy Macabre. And then they might target us again, then we Coffin Purge and they hit our Assassin's Trophy. But we have 2 Assassin's Trophy, they take them both. They name Mindbreak Trap. Okay. That was not the one we had. We have a lowly Coffin Purge. But they can use these Poxwalkers to make some more zombies and have a reasonable clock and just put enough cards in their library that maybe they can win with combat damage. So I'm going to Cabal Therapy us again, sacrifice his Poxwalkers, because why wouldn't you? And then we're going to try and hit this Thassa's Oracle, get them to shuffle it in, and maybe we can get... Oh, they're just going for the Thassa's Oracle right now. That is interesting. Let's get rid of the Thassa's Oracle like this. Our opponent almost certainly has a counterspell. Yep, and because we didn't draw the second land this turn, we're just dead to that. Alright, we're not kitted out to beat turn 1 combo decks. Like, we could run some sideboard cards to do that, but there's so many combo decks in the format right now. I'd rather try and game ourselves into the better combo decks, like the Mystic Forge deck and Cephalid Breakfast, that sort of jam, than sort of going into the Ouphe or spells, which is already hosed a little bit by things like Vexing Bauble just being in the format everywhere. Alright, let's get around for still searching for that elusive win. Okay, this is a turn 2 Hogaak. That's the sort of thing we want to be putting down. A basic island. A Tamiyo. Sure. Alright, Bayou. Let's get a Stitcher Supplier on the go. Our opponent could be a whole different bunch of decks here. We could be looking at something like a control deck with Tamiyo. We could be looking at a tempo deck. We could even be looking at a combo deck like Doomsday. Savannah. Okay, so we're in that bad life. Play this. I'll pay 2 life. I will play this Stitcher Supplier. So we can play this and the Hogaak around a days. I think I cast 1 from hand. Take out this Hogaak and we'll leave the Hexmage in. Okay, this feels like a powerful thing to be doing. We have 10 power on turn 2. Now our opponent's going to tap this Savannah and cast a Swords to Plowshares. Oh no, they're just drawing a card. They're going to play a Caracas? No. Some Bant Mana. Is this just a Bant control deck? It's been a hot minute since I've seen just a Bant control deck. It's tough playing control in the current era we're living in. I will take our 0 damage from the Tamiyo. Okay. Swords to Plowshares. Goodbye, friend. Let's Bayou out. I will jab for a little bit. When our opponent cracks this clue at end step, I will fire off the Bowmasters. It's not enough to kill the Tamiyo, sadly. If this Tamiyo flips, though, we're going to have some trouble because we've only got 1/1s right now. Alright, I guess we have the 2/2 of the Orc army. I guess we're getting ploughed there. So, are we going to see a Brainstorm here? We are. So they're flipping the Tamiyo. We do have a Hexmage which can answer the Tamiyo quite cleanly. However, our Tamiyo has to resolve. Sorry, not our Tamiyo, our Hexmage has to resolve. I'm willing to make that trade though. 1, 2, 3, 4. Assassin's Trophy. I'll play this. I will attack the Tamiyo to see what happens here. Because maybe they use something on this if they want to keep their Tamiyo so it can buy a spell back or something. Let's see how they feel about this Vampire Hexmage. Cracking a clue token. Did you find the answer you were looking for? They did not. Let's just stamp out that little Tamiyo. Not quite able to cast this Hogaak just yet. Terminus. Alright, we're fully in the old control role here on our opponent's side of the board here. Any order doesn't matter, we're going to shuffle before we get there. Yeah, we're fully in a control matchup here. This is where, hopefully, the Steely Resolve do some work. It's something we've been boarding out against all these combo decks we've been running rampant into us. So we're probably looking at boarding out the trophies in a matchup like this. A Hexmage. Will I play this to get some pressure going? Will I save it to answer the next Planeswalker? We already have the next Planeswalker to answer with this. I think we just need to have something on board doing things. Our opponent's got 5 cards in hand. They're about to draw their 6th, so they're going to have plenty of tools here. And we are just behind, really. Alright, maybe they don't have anything. Maybe they're going to flash some scary stuff in us. Or Snapcaster Plow. And Endurance. They're going to shuffle in our graveyard, I think. Yep, we'll let this resolve first, and then we will try and decay this. Sorry, not decay, trophy it. Our opponent's not likely to have that many permanents that we care about. They're probably just going to make a giant 4th Eorlingus in the near future and run us over with it. I wonder if they're playing a Beanstalk list. Lauren Revealed, that's some cards. Thoughtseize. There's no point casting this Thoughtseize. We need to use this Thoughtseize later when it's a card that lets us push something through. So we Thoughtseize and then follow up with a useful spell. We are under the gun a bit here. So they are a Beanstalk list. Okay, I was correct in my assumption. So I played against a Beanstalk list the other day that had very, very few win conditions. Another Thoughtseize. Sure, I'll pay 2 life here. Make our opponent think about stuff. A Leyline Binding. Okay. I will allow them to bind this. I guess we could have sacked it and have another card in the bin. And I doubt they're actually going to get rid of the binding, but we could Assassin's Trophy and get our guy back later on, and that's quite an important thing to do. Because that means if we find a... Oh dear. Our opponent is just running away with this game. The Teferi is decidedly good against a Hogaak as well, because they can just bounce it, and then we don't have the resources to redeploy it. Uh-oh, SpaghettiOs. Alright, our opponent is flipping their Tamiyo as well. I think we can call this a day here. I don't think we're getting through what our opponent's putting down. Alright, this is a tough time. So, I like the Duresses, and I don't hate the Decays. They're much better for us than the trophies. I like the Steely Resolves here. I think the Reanimates are okay. I don't really like Death Shadow into this deck that's running a bunch of Swords to Plowshares though. So let's try something like this. It's time we Merit Lage someone in the heart. We haven't done that yet today. We've got a lot of spells. Alright, we'll give it a whirl. We're going to get Overgrown Tomb here. I think I still want to start on this Stitcher Supplier. Right, all the lands that we really want to draw are over there. Understood. Tamiyo. Alright, I'll cast another Stitcher Supplier. This might give us the ability to play a Hogaak this turn. Did not give us the ability to play a Hogaak. I will play out this Dark Depths and I'll pass. In comes Tamiyo. A Brainstorm. Flip goes the Tamiyo. Things are not looking great for us right now. We did find a land. There's no point attacking here. So we could play the Overlord, which then might give us a Hogaak. I don't hate that. So I'll take this Hexmage, but at least we have a 20/20 available to us. That's something. Now, is our opponent going to be able to interfere with that? Almost certainly. Yeah, I'm not attacking into Tamiyo plus there. And we got our Overlord ticking down. There's also a bit of synergy in our deck where we can use the Hexmage to get the Overlord attacking earlier. But we could also just get the Dark Depths going. Our opponent's thinking our end step. Does this mean they've got a Brainstorm that they want to leverage here? I don't think they want to be playing one of our suppliers. That seems not ideal from where they sit. They've already got that covered. They don't really want to waste a plough on that unless their hand is just 4 ploughs. Even then, I think that's still a bit foolish. When you've got the Tamiyo, you've got Savannah here. Maybe just fetching away for the Brainstorm. Alright, a plus and a Tamiyo. If we find a land, we get to take a look at our opponent's hand first and then try and resolve something. Once again, we are in the I hope I draw a land category. What we can do as well is minus on the Balemurk, attack with the Balemurk, bring back our... Sorry, not minus. Use the Hexmage for the Balemurk, and then attack with the Balemurk, get the Hexmage back. Just keep that trainer rolling. Okay, we did not find the thing we wanted here. So I guess we just try a Hexmage and see if it resolves. Oh, it did resolve. That is handy. I don't think we can mess around by trying to attack with the Balemurk here. I think we just want to say no to this while we can. Our creatures are still underneath the Tamiyo ability, because that just happens until their next turn, even if they don't have a Tamiyo. But we've got an Overlord making its way downtown pretty soon. Would love to find a land. Ponder from our opponent. Up the Beanstalk, sure. Alright, so we can find a land, maybe we get to do Thoughtseize plus Bowmasters is quite strong. Didn't find the land, but kind of did in a weird way if you look at it sideways. I could play this Hexmage out and attack with the Overlord. That's probably going to get hit by something. We could just take a big bite out of crime and impact our opponent's life total. Or we could try and get the land to set up for next turn. This might also find us a Hogaak. I'll take the Bayou, I think, here. We did not find the Hogaak. But we do get to Duress our opponent here. Do you want to Duress or do you want Thoughtseize? Let's Thoughtseize. So if we can strip answers. Okay, I don't really want this 4th Eorlingus happening. That's the one we probably take here. How much mana do they have? 1, 2. Wrath of the Skies isn't going to kill this. Yeah, I think it's the 4th here. So they don't currently have an answer for our Marit Lage. A Terminus. That is an answer for our Marit Lage, but they're using it right now. Okay, what land are you going to play? Flowstrand, sure. So they have a mystery card in hand. So the plan is clearly going to be Duress and then the Hexmage, I think. And just see if we can win with this Marit Lage. Right, go Gadget Duress. An oldie but a goodie. Don't like the Ferry very much. I think that's probably the thing I want to get rid of here. The Overlord has nearly come into play. So we could have removed the counters from the Overlord, attacked with the Overlord and got their Vampire Hexmage back, but this way we get to attack with their 2020 next turn, and it'll be unblockable because of the Black Gate. Right, they're just cycling the Lorien Revealed. For Tundra, I imagine they're cracking the Clue here as well. No? Do they not have the mana for that? I thought they did. A Ponder. Alright, you get digging their opponent. So they might be saving this Clue so they can set up a Terminus. Tundra we know about. 4 cards in hand. One of them is a mystery. Let's do the thing. Play a land. Go attacks. This is not sorcery speed. So we can wait for them to play the endurance. They've got a plow. Yeah, that's a bit rude, isn't it? Okay. But we're about to get an Overlord. So that guy can start attacking next turn. We have the most life, so the Black Gate won't make anything unblockable anymore. What are they going to put on top? Is it the 4th Eorlingus? No, it's the Terminus. Understood. Poor little Overlord of the Balemurk. So I could Bowmaster and get some more damage, but that seems... because then they just get swept up by the Terminus. Alright. They're not making it easy for us. I'm going to auto-flip this. Do I want to Endurance... do I want to play this Bowmasters now? We play this in our turn. Then the Endurance can't sweep up our graveyard and stop us from casting the Hogaak. Let's Duress our opponent first. I wouldn't mind taking this Wrath of the Skies out. So we've got Endurance, Plains, and Containment Priest. We should play an Endurance in response, because we've seen the Hogaak out of our deck. As soon as this trigger resolves, we can play the Hogaak. Okay, so now we get the Hogaak. Black, black. And what are we going to get rid of here? Lands, we don't really have any use for those. Go Gadget Hogaak. They didn't play the Containment Priest either. Actually, no, that doesn't work, right? Because this is... yeah, we're still cast, so that doesn't affect it. We're going to lose our graveyard now, that's fine. We've taken a load of lands out, so if they're in our deck and we shuffle, we're not shuffling a bunch of lands into our deck. So we've got 8/8 Trampler against our opponent's deck full of removal. That might not be good, but we'll see. They're probably going to attack with the Tamiyo still. Yep. I'm really surprised they didn't get 4th Eorlingus back earlier. That would have been better than Terminus. Maybe I'm wrong. Okay, let's ping you for 1. Right, we could start stacking some damage on Tamiyo. But if they draw enough cards for Tamiyo, it's going to flip anyway. I guess our last ping hits it, but then they could just not play around it that way. You can play this Plains out. We know you've got Plains. They're playing something sorcery speed here. Up the Beanstalk, sure. So give us another trigger. Yeah, so we don't get to actually kill the Tamiyo even if we start directing it at Tamiyo straight off. Right, minusing our guys is a bit sad. Our Plains here. So we've got 6 points of toughness they can put in front of our Hogaak here. I'm pretty happy to Thoughtseize. Often are. That's the thing I enjoy doing to my opponents. Oh, the Plow. Why would you do this to me? They're going to play the Containment Priest as well? They are, and they're going to show us a land. I feel it in my bones. There it is. There it is. Okay, worst case scenario has been deployed. Feels like we've been close a lot in this game, but just falling on the wrong edge of it, and then when it's not close, it looks really unfair. You know what I mean? We just need like 1 turn off of them doing busted stuff. But they have drawn like half their deck, so it's not outrageous. Okay, it's a little bit outrageous, I suppose. So now we're going to draw a bunch more cards while they know we can't Bowmaster them. Do I think we can win this game? Well, our opponent's only on 13, and we have so much life, and they have so few win conditions. We don't really have that many answers to their win conditions. I guess we have the Abrupt Decays. I played a game last week or the week before where my opponent ultimate in their Tamiyo was actually part of our win condition against them, because it just meant they didn't have enough cards to play. Is Endurance coming in, or is this holding our Orcish Bowmasters at bay? Alright, they just want to get in with the damage. This is very suspicious. Alright, they got the Leyline Binding. Very suspicious indeed. I don't think we're winning this one. They've just got too many cards. Okay, that is the 4th round in the books, and we are trying to dodge the reverse trophy. It felt pretty reasonable in the first game, but we've had some mana troubles here and there in our deck, and it's just not really coming together. Let's see if we can string together a win in the final round. Alright, we're into the final round. What does our hand do? Not very much. Let's mulligan. What does this hand do? Also not a great deal. This is not the start I wanted. Oh dear, oh dear. What are we doing here? Throw back the Hogaak. Throw back a land. And a Depths. Sort of start working towards Death Shadow doing things. That doesn't feel great. I think we mulligan and try and get like a strong milling type hand. Okay, this hand has a plan. So we get rid of the Hogaak. I think we get rid of Death Shadow. And I guess we get rid of the Orcish Bowmasters here. And we maybe try and get something going with this Reanimate. It gives us 2 stabs at the Dark Depths combo. Right, a blue deck that is no doubt going to mess with our attempts at trying to stick a Vampire Hexmage. Alright. Oh, okay. Four like super fast combo decks, I guess. Yikes. I guess I'll put it as Dark Depths because we have 2. I don't expect our opponent to have access to a Thespian stage in their list. They're playing Island and Lotus Petal. They're probably Sneak Attack or Doomsday. Alright, we're looking at some sort of Sneak Attack deck most likely. Understood. Well, we have a hand that does a thing. I think we just get 2 Bayous here. I'm not expecting hate out of our opponent for what we're doing. Can I have a Hexmage, please? A Force of Will, pitching Force of Will. So we have the Reanimate, so we get to have another go at this next turn. So our hand did have a plan. But, yikes. City of Traitors. We're going to see a show and tell here. Feels like we might. Oh, the One Ring. Well, the text says they've cast it. So maybe we'll see it actually appear on the battlefield soon. There it is. Right, the One Ring has art now. That's exciting for us. The fact they have a One Ring, that is not so exciting for us. Right, let's reanimate our Hexmage, see if this works. If it doesn't, we can go again. Alright, we have a plan. And we can rebuy this plan if they have an answer next turn. The problem is, if they put something like an Archon of Cruelty into play, that just beats us. We don't get a window where we can make our 2020. Maybe they can't string it together. And our mulligan to 4 gets us there. It's possible. We need a little bit of help. It's been a rough old league. Alright, they are floating off the City of Traitors. That's a pity. If they just put something like an Atraxa or an Emrakul in that has to chump block, I can live with that. Alright, one more Brainstorm to rule them all. Does this find them the piece they need? Now, they might already have it. They're just trying to find a better creature. But we'll see. Opponent's taking a while with this Brainstorm, which might be good for us. Or it might be terrible for us. Let's find out. Is it an Archon of Cruelty? I'm going to say no to choose anything. It's an Atraxa. Okay, so we might be able to beat the Atraxa here. If we draw the Black Gate, we just straight up win here. But otherwise, we can... oh, Show and Tell Omniscience Emrakul is happening next turn. Not a fan of that one. But we get the chance to pick apart our opponent's hand because they're going to lose their Atraxa to our 2020. And then we get to reanimate their Atraxa and hopefully dig into a piece of hand disruption and take out like the Omniscience or the Show and Tell. Alright, they took Emrakul, Omniscience, Show and Tell, the One Ring and Otawara. This is okay. We might be able to win this one still. If we draw the Black Gate, then we just win right now. Alright, Marilage, I believe in you. What do they discard here? The Otawara is a clean answer to our Marilage as well for next turn, if that's the route they're going. Okay, we did not hit what we needed to. So we attack. They have to block here or they die. And then we get to reanimate their Atraxa. And we get to have a look at 10 cards. So, do you know what isn't in there? Hand Disruption. So they do just have a free route to the combo with Show and Tell. I don't think any of these cards actually win here. That is unfortunate. We gave that a really good fight. We were super close to winning that one. Alright, what do we want for a matchup like this? I think the Duresses are the obvious one. A Collector Ouphe can stop the One Ring if that's what we're really worried about. I don't think we're worried about anything to Abrupt Decay here. So maybe the Collector Ouphes. The Assassin's Trophies can hit their Omniscience if there's a trigger on the stack. So if we put in something like an Overlord of the Balemurk or a Stitcher's Supplier or a Satyr Wayfinder or an Orcish Bowmasters, that's going to put a trigger on the stack. So I like that. I don't think we're going to be trying to do Steely Resolve stuff here. And I guess we take out one Hogaak. Or is it one Death Shadow? These Death Shadow have been really bad, if I'm being honest. The earlier build that had Street Rates in, they may have been slightly better, but I just don't... Maybe we don't even want the Death Shadows at all. And we just have these Collector Ouphes. Just shut off their One Ring. We have a Thoughtseize. We don't have a second land. I don't think I can keep this one. I guess we keep this. Probably throw back the Hogaak here. Like, this is a one-lander, but we have a pretty powerful 1-2 punch to begin the game with. The Bayou. And if we find another land, all of a sudden we get to do a lot of cool stuff. Did we find anything? Okay, so we can reanimate Satyr Wayfinder, which is not how I really want to use my reanimate, but it's an option. We can also Thoughtseize our opponent at some point and reanimate their big scary monster. Ghost Vacuum. Sure. Okay, the reanimate does nothing. Understood. Forest. Don't hate the forest here. We could Balemurk. I think we're better off trying to Bowmasters. And maybe we get our opponent, because we need to have a reasonable threat. Also, if they do Show and Tell this turn, we can put the Bowmasters in. That'll be a trigger on the stacks that we can then respond with the Assassin's Trophy before our opponent gets to cast any sorcery speed spells. It's going to be tough for us. A Ponder. I would like to get some additional damages going. So let's do this. The Balemurk is another thing we can put in and put a trigger on the stack. But we don't have access to the Assassin's Trophy, but I don't think our opponent... They've already played their land for turn. So I don't think they're going off this turn. This gets us some more pressure, which is something we are in desperate need of. They left the card on top. So we could try an Assassin's Trophy, one of their lands, and force them to shuffle. But if they really want to, they don't have to shuffle. We could put our opponent in a horrible spot. What is the plan here? I guess we cast... Do we cast a Balemurk first? So this puts 4 cards in the graveyard. That's enough to Hogaak if we find a Hogaak. Do you want to interact with this? Our opponent says no. This all happens in one thing, so I don't really get a chance to respond there. I'm not feeling great about this. Like, we could have left up just the we could have just left up the Assassin's Trophy, but I don't think clocking our opponent for 4 damage a turn is going to make a difference in this game. Our opponent's got plenty of time if we do that. The Overlord gives us a chance to hit into something higher value there, like a Hogaak or whatever. A sneak attack. Do you have a red mana to go with this? They do not. Okay. Pretty good news for me. Let's see if we can bait out something from our opponent here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. How do you feel about Hogaak? I doubt they care about the Hogaak, but maybe they do. Okay, let's try and get rid of this. This is probably what they fight over. If they have anything to fight. Oh, they didn't. That is beautiful for us. That might not mean anything, but it might mean the world. We didn't get 2 damage in this turn, but we added an 8/8 to the board. This means we have lethal damage next turn, and we took out our opponent's combo. They're just going to play another sneak attack and activate it. Okay, that becomes a lot more difficult with their pondering. I don't like this pondering after they've played a land either. I think you want to ponder first, because maybe you hit a soul land, and that changes how you want to deploy your mana. Alright, we'll get another ping with our Bowmasters. Don't do it, opponent. Am I putting in this Orcish Bowmasters? I think so. It's an Emrakul. Okay. 4, 5, 6, 7. We are 1 damage shy at present. However, if our Orcish Bowmaster dies, that's not going to happen though, is it? An Overgrown Tomb. What could the Stitcher's Supplier do for us? This Ghost Vacuum is kind of annoying too. We're not dead to an Emrakul attack though. Tap this. 4, 5, 6, 7 damage. If we stitch a supplier, what does that change here? Okay, we could attack with everything, and then if they block the Hogaak here, they might just kill this in the end of turns phase. Sorry, the end of damage. Yep, so do this. They go to 1. I want to play this one out and put a trigger on the stack. I want our opponent to try and interfere with our Hogaak so we have a chance to reanimate something. Okay, so if we find an Orcish Bowmasters, we can try and win the game right now. If this mills us an Orcish Bowmasters. It did not. Reanimating this Overlord does not help. We have plenty of permanents we can sacrifice though. Our opponent can't draw any additional cards. Right, we're going to be sacrificing a bunch of things. Oh, right, no, we just got to win there. Okay. Whew. That was a tough one. I think I like how I've sideboarded here. The Collector Ouphe can also shut off the Ghost Vacuums, so that's a plus point for it. This hand does not spark joy with me. This is everything. This is to avoid the reverse trophy, which is quite often a difficult thing to do in Depthcember when we're playing some pretty fruity brews. Okay. This is Stitcher Supplier, mills us. Play this. We can ping our own Stitcher Supplier, maybe cast a Hogaak on turn 2. Is that good enough? Or do we need some hand disruption? That's a tough call. We have 8 pieces of hand disruption. I think we need to have some hand disruption. We do not have any hand disruption with this hand either. This is a Supplier with just a 1-lander. Oh, we have to go to 4. Okay. We can keep this. We got Overgrown Tomb, Thoughtseize, Reanimate. That is a plan. Overgrown Tomb. So we get back. We probably throw back a Wayfinder. We probably throw back 2 Wayfinders and keep. No, we have to put 3 cards back here. Are we getting rid of the second land? I don't think we can get rid of the second land, which means we probably have to get rid of this Assassin's Trophy. Or do we get rid of the Overgrown Tomb? We want to be able to cast our 2-mana spells. I think we have to get rid of the trophy. So the idea is we Thoughtseize, take away their Atraxa, and then reanimate their Atraxa. That is the dream here. Okay, the dream is dead. Exciting. So now it's... Let's try and Thoughtseize them, take away their best card, and hope they can't combo for a bit, and then maybe we draw a Hexmage and just go. Jeez Louise. They obviously want this Ponder in a big way. But if we take the Show and Tell, we're not under pressure from that for a while. Just think is probably where we need to be. A little bit of lag there. Okay, there we go. Show and Tell is gone. The next Overgrown Tomb that we play untapped means that we die to 1 hit from an Emrakul, which is important. They're just going to keep our graveyard under wraps. That's fine for now. If we can draw a Collector Ouphe next turn and they don't have a blue card for this Force of Will, that could be pretty darn tasty. They did find a land. Okay. Hogaak. Not really where I want to be, but we could just draw a Hexmage next turn, play that, force the Force out of their hand, and then untap. I guess the Reanimate's not going to work because of the Ghost Vacuum. Pain. But we can force the Force out of their hand at least. That is a Scalding Tarn. Are we just getting mangled here by a Show and Tell? Or are they going to hard cast a Sneak Attack? It's probably the One Ring actually, isn't it? We know they have this 4-drop in hand. So they got 2 cards in hand, 3 once they tap the One Ring. We know one of them's a Force of Will. Do they have a blue card to go with it? It's quite likely. Like, this is what we're doing. If this resolves, then we might be able to win this one. Did you draw a blue card? They did draw a blue card. It was a Brainstorm. Okay, that's something at least. I should have played that as Dark Depths. That was a mistake. It's fine. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day. Goodbye, Collector Ouphe. Right, tapping a One Ring, doing Ancient Tomb stuff, pondering. Another Collector Ouphe. Well, second verse, same as the first. Does this one work? It does. Alright, Dark Depths in play. Now, our opponent's drawn a fair few cards off of this One Ring already, so they might have what they need. But we've got a bit of a fighting chance going now. We want them to have a monster in hand but no payoff, and then we want to draw a Thoughtseize, take their monster, and reanimate it. That is the dream here. Not quite the dream we're looking for. Is this going to be a Thundering Falls in our end step? Just to get a little bit deeper? It is. Please put it into your graveyard, opponent. They did. Okay. The One Ring. Burning them down. Right, a land. They played that one out quite quickly. I could crack this for the marginal thinning. I'm going to do that. I'm going to get swamped just in case something really weird happens. Blood Moons. Alright. That's not a card that we get to cast here. So this puts our opponent to 7. The One Ring puts them to 5. Come on, we're close. We're close. Don't kill me, opponent. Another land. Alright. Maybe we get to... Okay. What does this find us? Nothing particularly useful. We could play a Hogaak right now. I think we cast this because we have the Reanimate as well. We're dead to an Emrakul anyway. Put a land card into your hand. Okay. Let's cast a Reanimate targeting the Overlord. This just gets us the Hexmage anyway if we want it. Cast this. Get rid of things that aren't creatures. Attack. Put our opponent to 1. Come on. Can we dodge? One more turn. One more turn, opponent. Help me out. Yeah! Alright, we dodged the reverse trophy. Beautiful. Perfect deck. Nothing wrong with it. Exquisite. Whew. I think dodging the reverse trophy is a bigger moment than actually winning a trophy half the time. Because you're like, okay, I'm playing this horrible deck that's got many flaws in it. Can we at least put a win on the board? And we did. Phew. Let's talk about this deck. So clearly this is a bit of a brew and has some problems in it. And I think the problems can be described quite effectively if we look at just a very small selection of cards in the deck that were no good at any point, really. Like, the Reanimates were fine, but I don't necessarily think we need them. So we've got a pile of 9 cards that is really weighing us down. I actually think the deck probably needs one more land, and it probably wants to be a Surveil land. I don't think we want to be doing Overgrown Tomb stuff if we're not playing Death Shadow. So we could lean heavier into the Shadow, right? So we could play things like the Street Wraith, like I mentioned before. Snuff Out is not great right now. You could run Dismember, though. So there are some options if we wanted to go more into Shadow. There's only so much we can fit in. But this whole strategy of milling ourselves is something that I'm a big fan of. And it actually feels all right. We have a Critical Mass to do that right now. So milling ourselves into Hogaak. That feels like a thing we want to be doing. Obviously, should this be a Dark Depths deck? Questionable if that's true. But we have one milling creature that can find the land. We have another milling creature that can find the creature. And then obviously we just have another one that's going to be milling us into other bits and pieces. So I don't think it's outrageous to be running this. And I do like how Hexmage allows us to interact with Planeswalkers. So, for example, we killed Tamiyo a fair few times with our Hexmage, and sometimes you're killing a Teferi, which can be important. And the Hexmage just having synergy with the Overlord of Balemurk, I think, is enough to tip it into the thing where actually we want to be doing this and this does come together. The problem is we're running these slots. So I wanted to run some Avatar Kindred with the avatars like this, and Mire. So the original reason I brewed this deck, or started brewing this deck last year around Christmas time, then gave up and picked it up last week again, was I thought it would be funny to try and do Steely Resolve and lean into the creature type of Marrelage and see if we could work it that way around. And I don't think that's worth it. What I think you could do is have this in the sideboard and maybe board it in when you're playing, you're playing these cards and you're playing the Marrelage. So maybe that's enough things to board in some matchups. But having it in the main deck did not feel good. Now, the league we played was kind of skewed. We played 4 combo decks and 1 control deck. And control basically doesn't exist in the format most of the time at the moment. It's such a small percentage of the field, and it also has horrible win rate against like the top 6 decks. So it's unlikely to play against control. And obviously control is going to body us pretty hard because we have a few big pieces that they can remove, and they can just sort of surgically remove what's going on and win around us relatively easily. So that was always going to be pretty horrible. Turn 1 combo decks are not really something we're tooled to beat. Now, we could try and impact that by running things like Leyline in the sideboard or Fairy Macabre. Fairy Macabre I like as a thing that gets back with Overlord of the Balemurk. It kind of does a similar thing to Coffin Purge, except Coffin Purge gets to be in your graveyard with the Satyr Wayfinder and the Stitcher Supplier. So there is more synergy there, but Overlord getting back the Fairy Macabre is important too. So that is another way you could go, and that gives you a little bit more game against Ouphe spells. And it might have been enough in that matchup we played. Actually, no, because they had a counterspell for our spell, which wouldn't have happened if we had a Fairy Macabre. But then they would have Memories Journeyed in response. And then we wouldn't have been able to resolve the Assassin's Trophy through that force of will our opponent had, and they would have just been able to win. So that probably doesn't work for us either. But overall, I think there is something to this deck. Like, obviously, once we've realised that a sixth of our deck is probably not a thing that should necessarily be in our deck, I think the Reanimates is justifiable. We are milling ourselves a bit. I don't hate the Reanimates here. But I think this whole package of stuff just does not feel like where I want to be right now. I think we were doing a lot better. I kind of want to play something like Grist in this deck, because Grist is very good with Hogaak. It mills you out to find some stuff. It's harder for your opponent to interact with. I'm a big lover of Grist. I think it's my favourite legacy playable Planeswalker. And probably my second favourite Planeswalker of all time. I do love Tezzeret, Agent of Bolas, though. For reasons I won't get into now, but let's just say it put me on the Pro Tour. But like I was saying, Grist feels like a thing that could really kick this deck up a notch, because it gives us a piece of removal. It's an engine for our deck that can just kind of take over a game on its own. It could do some real work for us. We could even run the insect thing from Duskmourn, where if you play enough things out of the graveyard, if you have enough of the certain card, say its name, I think it's called, out of the graveyard, you can then bring it back into play. Maybe that's the thing we're doing, because we're milling so much. If we have 4 of those, we're relatively likely to find it. But then I guess we could run Say Its Name instead of Satyr Wayfinder, but Satyr Wayfinder just has so much synergy with Hogaak, and also just being a thing we can get back with Overlord. So I'm not convinced that's where I want to go. Maybe that's too many mill cards when we could just be running, you know, some Grists. So let's just map this out. So we go 1 land, 3 Grists, perhaps, and then we can have 3 more pieces of interaction, so we can have some Fatal Pushes, or maybe there's some sort of spell we can get back from the graveyard that's quite handy. I'm not sure what that would be. I'm trying to think of any good flashback or dredge removal spells, and there aren't really any. I guess we could run... No, I don't want to run... Is it Necroplasm? What's it called? There's some dredge guy that ticks up like a weird little Pernicious Deed type creature. I don't think that's where I want to be. Yeah, I'll have to have a think about that one. I don't think we're into running Vengeful Pharaoh, which is a card I do enjoy a lot, but I don't think that's where I want to be here. But it did feel like there was something here, even though the league was a disaster. A lot of the reason the league was a disaster was we didn't have enough mana to operate, or our opponent was killing us on turn 1. Now, those two things, one of them we can't really do anything about. Turn 1 combat decks are going to be a problem for us. We can try and adjust that in this sideboard, you know, Mindbreak Traps or the ley lines and stuff I've mentioned already. But in terms of like what our deck can do, we can fix the land on it, and then we can actually cast our spells. And I've played Hogaak decks before, and just the curve of Stitcher Supplier into Balemurk, or Stitcher Supplier into Satyr Wayfinder, or even Stitcher Supplier into Bowmasters, ping our own Stitcher Supplier, play a Hogaak from hand. That is quite a powerful line. Having like 10 power on turn 2 is strong, and that's something that we could definitely work towards. And I think this deck's got some legs. I'm going to leave it in sort of the back of my mind and try and fix this one. I don't think I'm going to play it again for Depthcember, but if you would like to see this deck, like a fixed version of this deck for Depthcember, please write in the comment. I usually record a few days in advance anyway, so if I get enough people saying that they want to see this again, but a fixed version, then I will play it. And obviously, if you have some ideas on how to fix it, by all means post those too, but I'll leave it in the hands of you lovely people. I enjoyed the last round, I would say. It was a bit of a sweat, but we did get there, and we did avoid the reverse trophy. Hopefully we won't get any of them in Depthcember as we play increasingly weird and wonderful decks. Alright, thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe so you don't miss any of this wonderful Depthcember content. And goodbye.
If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget turbo depths, as well as 3 tiers of support. A low cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel, a mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed turbo depths guide that is updated every month, as well as regular articles, and lastly the higher tier gives you all of the above, as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.